Hey guys. Hi guys. I'm just waiting to see Dr. Lipscomb. Let's see. I'm trying to pin when I post it, I can pin, right? Let's see. Yes. And I see Dr. Lipscomb. Right. What's up, guys? Hey, hey, hey. He's like, I'm here. I see you. Hi, Hope. What's up,
Hey,
Dr.
hey, hey,
Lipscomb?
what's going on, Amber? How you doing?
I am doing really good. There are people coming in. Everybody wave, drop some purple hearts in the comment section.
Ooh, ooh.
Do you have a favorite color?
I do orange.
Okay, drop some. Oh, but what if there's no orange emojis?
There should be
Heart
orange
emojis.
hearts.
Okay, drop some purple and some orange heart emojis in the comments.
What's
Drop some
good, family?
waves as you guys come in. Hi,
Hey,
Dr.
hey,
Terry. Hello, everyone.
the
Oh,
beautiful
you
thing.
got an orange heart? Oh, snap.
See,
Two
told you
orange
it's possible.
hearts? Yeah, it's possible.
Told you it is possible.
Hi, purple and orange. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm just going to give a couple of minutes for more people to come. I
Yes.
just want to tell you a little side story of how this is possible. I did a secondary trauma post and it just went viral. A lot of you guys resonated with it. A lot of you guys loved it. A lot of you guys shared it. I think over 500 of you guys shared that post. And so I said, I have to get Dr. Lipscomb on a live because he was the reason I was able to come up with this information.
And tell them how you found me. Tell them how
I
you
found
came
him.
across.
Obviously, all my posts are research based. So I found him via Google. I simply Googled secondary trauma through like police exposure, and he was the very first
That part.
academic journal that I saw.
That
And
part.
so I printed it off. I read it. Let me show you guys this journal.
Come on.
I printed it off and I read
Come
it.
on.
I did my research and I made that post. And that
Yes.
post resonated with you guys. And so I wanted to have him here. He actually has a journal that was just published. How many days ago?
2 days ago.
2 days
Two
ago.
days
An
ago.
academic journal
2 days
published
ago.
2 days ago called You Have the Right to Exclaim
Explain.
Your Pain,
That part.
honoring Black family voices impacted by police-induced trauma in the United States.
Yes.
2 days ago.
And I had submitted this 9 to 10 months ago. For those of you
Right.
who are not familiar with the peer review process, you submit manuscripts months before it's actually published and it goes through review. And so I did some revisions back in March on it because it got accepted with some revisions. And I said, you know what, with everything going on, let me look and see when they expect this to be published. Because I think, I wanted to put a little nudge, a little fire and say, hey, we need to publish this down if you can. And I said, well, let me look on their journal's website first before I start sending emails and stuff. And I looked on the website and it was published. I'm like, perfect. Let me get this information out there.
Wow. Congratulations on your publication two
Thank you.
days ago.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have some of your prior students on today.
Yes.
You guys throw
So
some
all the way
hearts.
up.
Some orange hearts for your
They
professor.
can put up red and black for CSUN Matador hearts.
Okay, some red and black hearts for Dr. Lipscomb. Thank you guys for being here for him and for showing up. But we're going to start. It seems like we have our audience here, and I just want to thank you all for being here. And let's go. Let's do this. So Dr. Lipscomb is an assistant professor in the social work department. He is a clinical psychologist and licensed clinical social worker.
Ooh,
okay, for the social work club.
Stand up.
And you have education certificates from Cornell. You just specializing in diversity and inclusion and HR. you have a certificate from the University of Michigan, which if you guys do not know, the University of Michigan is one of the best schools in the United States for social work. I think they're number 2 or number 1 in the nation. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
You have your PsyD in clinical psychology and so much more. You teach basically everything social work related, but what stood out to me was advanced social work practice with urban families.
That part.
What?
That part. Get all the way into it. Yeah.
I have never heard of such a class. What?
Well, you know, we got some dope stuff happening at CSUN's program. We don't play in that program. We are all about working with communities of color, social justice, honoring voices, you know, anti-oppressive practices, dismantling, deconstructing, re-envisioning and imagining a new way of moving and being in urban communities. And we are a generalist program focus as well.
CSU?
CSUN showing up.
Guys. Oh, CSUN, my bad.
CSUN. We're not just any CSU, we CSUN.
CSUN, I got you. But guess what else, you guys? Not only does he have a bazillion peer-reviewed articles, he has a book.
That part.
A book. And the book is called Black Male Grief, Reaction to Drama, One Man's Mental Health Treatment. So check out this book. It is on Amazon. I know you have just heard of these 2 journal articles that we're going to discuss today, what research says about secondary impact of police-induced trauma. But if you can stay on with us for this hour, learn some about this, learn some coping skills so you can share it with your friends and any Black male you may know or anybody, you won't regret it. And if you can pick up his book on Amazon, please do so. So let's go.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to have a moment of silence for the audience. So if you can just kind of get into a space while we do something that we should not have to do, and that's a roll call. And this roll call is so important. I am bringing it to the forefront because it actually is the introduction of his latest academic journal article, again, published 2 days ago. The very first line says, say their names. And so we're going to have the moment of silence and start.
Charlene Lyles, Shakri Ali, Deborah Daner, Rakia Boyd, Maya Hall, Miriam Carey,
Ariana Stanley Jones,
Philando Castile, Freddie Gray,
Michael Brown, Eric Garner,
and more recently, Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd.
Let us not forget Breonna Taylor and Sandra Bland.
Yes. Yes, yes.
Say their name.
Say their names.
All right.
It's okay. Let it out.
So, and the reason why we're here today is because of your academic journal article entitled African American Lord be with me. Black Male Hunting, a phenom study exploring the secondary impact of police-induced trauma on the Black male psyche.
Yes.
So, in this article, I found some very troubling statistics. Some of you guys have seen these all over the news, but just in case you have not, African Americans account for 13% of our population, and yet are victims of 26% of police shootings, and they are killed 2.8 times the rate of non-white Latinos. So this is why we're here. And just digging into your study, I saw that we had 62 males who participated between the ages of 18 and 65. The mean age was 30. And it focused on the secondary trauma that was coming up after the shooting of Stephon Clark. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. So this was 2018. And we all witnessed and saw the horrific and terrifying videos, images that was released of law enforcement going out and responding to a call that there was a Black male who had a gun, or looked to as though he had a gun, and he was in his grandparents, specifically I think grandmother's, backyard in Sacramento. And what you also saw, if you witnessed the video, because they had the body cameras, you heard and saw the shooting. And so they shot at Stefan over 20 times, shot at him, of which 8 penetrated the body. Okay. And I thought about, in that moment of watching it, the trauma of being exposed and seeing it, right? Of not having it be someone first of kin or someone you're working with, for my service providers out there, or family members, et cetera. The impact that that has on Black males. And so I decided to do what is referred to as a rapid research study. And rapid research is doing research as the phenomenon is unfolding. So actually studying it while it's happening in time.
So one thing I was so impressed by as I read this article is that 3 weeks after the shooting, you were like, let's go, it's time to research. And you literally pulled up this rapid research response team, or have you, and you got together 62 males, Black males, and you gave them, what was the questionnaire? Like, how did this happen?
Sure.
What was this process?
Sure. So it happened, I want to say it happened, the murder happened on like that Sunday. I think I saw the video either that Monday or Tuesday. That Saturday, I spent that entire day working on my IRB research proposal for this, because I have to get it approved through my university, through my institution. So I worked on it that Saturday, submitted it. And so 3 weeks from that day was when I got the approval. So it was a survey. One of the things I have found over the years of doing research with Black males, that they are more likely to respond to research if it's through social media or electronically through texting, et cetera. So I created 10 survey questions, getting some demographic information, and then open-ended exploratory questions about their experience. Did they witness it? How did they view it, hear about it, read it, et cetera? And then if they didn't mind sharing their experiences of the after effect of watching it.
Right. So I was reading that some of your questions were like, how do Black males who witnessed the shooting of Stefan Clark feel after seeing this on social media over and over? How does it impact you personally? And do you worry after watching it? Is that correct? Right.
Those were some of the questions, definitely. And one of the things, go ahead.
No, go.
I was going to say, one of the things I think is important that also motivated me in doing this is within the mental health community and clinical work community, we have been trained to utilize the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual 5. And we recognize there's a lot of concerns regarding that, to say the least. But one of the things specifically that this classification of all the mental health related diagnoses talks about related to PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is that it doesn't account for you being secondarily exposed.
Yes, it's good.
It doesn't account for that. So I wanted to capture that. If you are someone who is just watching, viewing, but racially identify what you're seeing in the person that is being murdered, I wanted to capture that because the DSM is not capturing that. They're not seeing that as a mental health related symptom or challenge. So I wanted to also highlight that in my questions and my responses to speak to what that is.
That's really good. And how did you feel like receiving some of those answers? And we'll go through some of those answers as we go through the themes that you saw, the emergent themes that you saw. But how did you feel receiving some of that feedback?
You know, it is emotionally overwhelming. And so one of the things I have to be mindful of and cognizant of is, at what point do I decide to actually start unpacking and going in and looking at the data. So I don't immediately start reading and going into it. I have to be mentally in a right space. I have to be mindful. I have to set my intentions. I have to do it in doses. I had a research team who helped me actually review this over the summer. So that we collected it in March. We didn't start looking at the themes and coding it until the summer in July, because it is very overwhelming,
right,
emotionally.
I can imagine, and especially since it affects your personal cultural demographic, you know, us just reading those names was just enough. So I can't imagine literally getting the responses of these Black males who rarely speak or feel safe enough to really share how they're feeling. But through your research, you found 3 themes, right? And so the first theme was emotional reactions of anger and sadness. And in that theme, you had someone say, I cannot believe this is still going on. And please do not forget, you guys, this was after the shooting of Stephon Clark. How long ago was that? And how are we still saying the same thing? Someone said, I am devastated and paralyzed each time I hear or see killings of unarmed Black men. It stops me in my tracks and it takes my breath away. Someone says, I'm angry that another innocent, unarmed Black man was robbed of a successful life that he began. Another person said, I can't stand watching history repeat itself. And the last person that you mentioned said, I am outraged. This is becoming an epidemic. And how many years later are we hearing that we're going through 2 pandemics, COVID and racism? And here we are with these Black men saying exactly what we are hearing today.
And let me say this real quick. You know, it's important because when I go around, I've been doing this particular body of research for the past 7 years. And when I go around, depending on the audience and who I'm presenting to and talking to or training, some folks may say, but we know this, Lipscomb. Like, we know it impacts Black bodies and Black people in the psyche. So this is a no-brainer. But one thing that for folks to know outside of academia is that if we don't capture it, if we don't legitimize it in a way that speaks it and names it, folks don't take heed. They don't take it in. They don't recognize it. They don't see it as such. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to move into this particular type of scholarship is so not only that I can honor Black families and voices and individuals, but also so it can be visible. So I am willing to do the emotional labor work. I am willing to go there because I know the greater need that is done. And I know that for other folks, they need to see this. They need to read about this, especially for folks that don't even have a clue or allies or wanting to be allies and needing some information. They don't have the living experience. And so this literature, not only does it affirm experiences and validates experiences, but it also serves to educate folks without the labor of Black folk having to always teach and tell people what it's like and what the experience is.
Well, I just want to thank you again, Dr. Lipscomb. Your work has been so great for me, and I know these people learning of it today are so appreciative of your emotional labor that someone just thanked you for, and of your physical labor. So thank you. But that wrapped up theme 1. And remember, that was reactions of anger and sadness. That's what he found amongst this group of 62 Black males. But the second thing was psychophysiological symptoms of hypervigilance, avoidance, and disassociation. And if you know from the post that I shared, hypervigilance occurs when you're on standby. When you don't know what's going to happen, when you're scared. And so you have to react.
When you have to stay ready. When you have to stay ready.
When you have to stay strapped. When you have to stay focused. When you have to. And it's something that you should not have to do to go to the grocery store. Or, you know, to take your kids to school and there's a cop on the highway. You know what I mean? So that was something that you found, and some of the responses were, My guard is up daily.
Yes.
I'm conflicted to accept this as my reality. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm conflicted to accept this as my reality, meaning every single day, this is my life. I'm hypervigilant.
And if I may, that's the coping too.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That's that coping. Like, you know, I can't, I don't want to accept, you know, avoidance, but that's all of that right there. Yeah.
Yes, that's good. And I have to watch my back everywhere I go in Sacramento. I'm very hyper vigilant about law enforcement.
Yes.
I don't even feel safe in my own home, say
That
their
part.
names.
That part.
We know of 2 people who have been shot in their own homes, peacefully minding their business. Mm-hmm. So that is what we found.
So then, when do you rest? When do you go back down to baseline, right? If we talk about regulation, emotional regulation, right? And so if your baseline is never at ease and never at peace, and it keeps getting, right, flicked at, torn at, shot at a certain point, there's that reaction, going back to the first theme of anger.
Yeah.
Right? So then there's activation, and we're going to talk about the third theme in a moment. But so now we're seeing what we're seeing today. What we see as a result of, you know, protesting, rioting, looting, right? Not excusing behavior, but we're understanding how we got here. See, folks like to just check in and be like, well, where's this coming from? We don't get it. This is not going to solve anything. But this is historical pain.
Yeah.
This is long-lasting grief and pain. And so we see how it is coming out now.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And so in your third theme, and the final thing that you saw in this research, injustice around Black male bodies being targeted. Yes. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, so what was very clear in looking at this data is that many of the Black males, if not all of them, felt like they were wearing a target, they had a target on their back, or the fathers of the young Black males had a target on their back. So they were worried about the target on their sons or the target that they're carrying on their back and being targeted. And so that goes back to that hypervigilance piece. If I feel like I always have this target, it also goes back to that stay ready piece, right? That hypervigilance piece happening as well.
Right. And so it's literally a vicious cycle of fear, terror, hypervigilance, emotional pain. These people, just imagine living in this state for so long. How can you even eat healthy or proper foods? You can't even sit down and make a meal for yourself because you're always on alert, like Dr. Diona just said. Some people said in this category, I fear for my son, like you just said. I fear when I travel. And I'm concerned of being stereotyped. So people, even if they're not dealing with this hypervigilance, and if they're not dealing with anger or sadness, if they have resilience and they're able to go through life a little easier, they still have to worry about being stereotyped.
For sure. You know, I use this example, but when I walk my dog, I have to worry. Don't let it be cold. Right? Because then I'm like, do I want to wear a jacket? Do I want to wear a hoodie? Should I wear a beanie? Should I not? You know, this emotional labor, right? So I'm doing all this, right? That's part of the psychological burden that I have. I have to unpack, okay, what do I want to wear? Do I want to wear that today? No, maybe I should change. Okay, is it bright outside enough? Can people see me? Am I waving at my neighbors? So this is that ongoing, right, process and that emotional labor that you're doing around being stereotyped, being racialized, being targeted and assumed, because no one's going to ask questions. We already know that. They're just going to shoot.
Right.
Right. So yes, that directly speaks to that target and the emotional labor and psychological burden of having to do that day in and day out.
Right. And so those are the 3 themes that you found in this research. We don't have all day, and we don't want to bore you guys with this academic laborish part of it. But can you just tell us the final results and the wrap up from that study? And what you think, other than the fact that we need more evidence-based interventions for these men?
So I think what comes out of this particular body of research is now folks get to see it and name it and understand it. And specifically, those who are not Black can understand it and not pathologize it. Because that's the association with the implicit bias, right? So you associate Black male, angry, etc., then they must have been doing something, right? But we can see it as complex secondary trauma through exposure.
Right. And the repetitive exposure of everything through social media sources, which is something that you wanted to highlight in your article.
For sure. And then the other piece with this is that it also lets other males and Black folk know that you are not alone.
Yes.
You are not alone.
Yes, that's really good. If you guys hear me doing this, it's because he has so much good work. I have to go through it. There's so many pages, so please forgive me, but we're going to move on.
Shout out to my research team who helped me with that. They're on
There's
here.
some of those, they're on here. I saw someone say that, so shout out to y'all.
Shout out to Mark.
Let's talk about your article that was just published.
Yes.
First of all, I have never seen anything so culturally competent and well written and sensitive in an academic journal article in my life. Uh-oh. We're paused. Uh-oh. I hope you guys are still there. Are you guys there? Uh-oh. Hey guys, are you there? Can I get some purple hearts if you're there? You guys are here. I don't think Dr. Lipscomb is here. He's going to have to come back. Hi, Dr. Terry. Hi, Kwana from Altered Therapy. Dr. Joe. All of my really good friends. Hi, Laura. We're just going to wait for Dr. Lipscomb. Instagram is upset. They're like, this is such good work. Let's take it off. Let's black it out. Just kidding. They're not really like that. I'm not conspiracy theorist, but hopefully. Hi, Ruffin. You guys, I have a friend from high school here. Hi, Doctor. Oh, he's back. Okay, here we go. He's coming, guys. Don't worry. Hopefully, it says, what's up?
My phone got so hot. You know, we burning here. We talking about some shit. So it kicked me off. So the temperature may throw me off again because my iPhone got so hot. And
wow.
Yeah, so you know, we real talking some stuff and doing some stuff. So it's going down. So yeah, let's continue.
Okay, you're back. And you know, I've never seen so many people gain followers after that. Hi,
hey, Frankie.
What's up, guys?
So you were saying the way that it was written, you've never seen something.
No, like you literally started an academic journal listing the names of those who were killed from police brutality. It was raw, it's poignant, and it's very, very, like, it's needed. And so I love the way that you write. I love how real it is, and I love how you're not changing who you are to make a point for what is really going on. But I want to talk about the interviewing questions that you had for these families in your second piece of research. Can you tell us the title of that?
So the title of this one is You Have the Right to Exclaim Your Pain, Honoring Black Familial Voices Impacted by Police-Induced Trauma in the United States. So you can just Google and you can just type in You Have the Right to Exclaim Your Pain. It should be the first thing that comes up. If you want the first article that we were just talking about, you can just Google Black male hunting. It should be one of the first, if not the first article that comes up.
Okay. And so this time, instead of trying to figure out how Black men were feeling, you wanted to focus on families.
Correct.
How was that?
You know, it's something that I wanted, our focus at our school, at the program where I teach at, we look at urban communities and families. And so we recognize that we don't exist in isolation. We are part of our communities, we're a part of our families and the larger society. So I wanted to open it up and start looking at now what is the psychological burden and experiences from the family systems of Black folks, and how are they responding to this, and give voice and honor them as well in this, because they have pain as well.
Right. So you asked them, like, describe any personal experiences that you've had with law enforcement
Yes.
In the past 5 years, and what's been going on with the murders of unarmed Black men and harassment towards women. Like, discuss the impact that it's had on your life. Yes. Describe how it's impacted your relationships outside of your family, and so much more. Like, how has this topic of race been different now than in the past? Just a lot of really important questions to kind of gain insight and understanding of how the families in California are feeling with racially induced trauma, secondary trauma, or from police. And so what did you find?
So not a surprise at all. We found that there was aggressive policing that these families were experiencing across the board, right? All the families was experiencing that. Another theme that came up, and I didn't specifically ask them about Black males or Black men, but the fear for their Black men and boys in their family system was another theme that came up. Another thing was surviving police encounters with avoidance.
Yeah.
Right? So we got to survive and we got to kind of avoid. And then the final one, a predominant conversation within Black families about race throughout the lifetime. So it's not a one-time conversation, sit down. It's how do you survive and live beyond just when you're a teen, when you're a young adult, et cetera. So the ongoing conversation about what we're seeing, unfortunately, happening in our society and across our country.
Right. And in what you found, how can we take all of the responses from these families and make a like, what would the statement be, the overall statement, a generalization of how Black families in America feel today? Like, what would that be from these responses?
It would be, we're hurting. We're hurting, but we're surviving. Right? We're hurting, we're surviving, and we're in pain, and we're grieving. And I think that's the piece that I want to highlight that I haven't spoken to yet. You know, the research that I specifically do is traumatic grief. I look at traumatic grief and loss, specifically among Black men, but I also expanded and look at folks of color and communities of color. And so I see everything and look at everything through a grief lens. And so what we're seeing from families, Black families, is grief, pain, and hurt.
Yeah. And also talking about it, not just once, but we have to talk about this all the time. We have to have a conversation at the dinner table all the time. Yes. About how to protect yourself, when to go out, text me when you get home.
Yes.
And things like this is what I was reading through your paper.
Yeah, and we don't get to unpack it emotionally and psychologically speaking, right? So then because, you know, I have my own practice and I see folks in clinical practice. So then when we start to acknowledge and unpack and name it, this is when the emotions start to come. This is where the validation starts to come in spaces. So we as Black folk have been bereft of a bereavement experience. And I'll say that again. We have been bereft. We have been robbed of a bereavement experience. And so this is the misbereavement, right? The misbereavement is the lack of visibility, the lack of recognition, credence, honor, and respect for what Black folks have been going through. And so that impacts and truncates the grief and bereavement process.
That's such a good point. Because what we're feeling is not honored. First of all, let's go back. Because what has been happening is not visual to most people, because they don't see it, because they don't hear it, or because they don't want to believe it.
That part.
Even though they know it.
That part.
Because of that, we're unable to heal. We're unable to feel safe. We're unable to unpack what we're literally feeling every single day because of what we keep seeing over and over and over and over again. And this is not just about police brutality. This is about racism, overtly and covertly. So when we go into work and we're afraid to be ourselves and we have to code switch,
that part. Come on.
And then how we have to go home and pretend that that we're happy with our jobs, but we're not because we're too loud, or we want to use slang, or because of this or that. That too has effects in addition to the police brutalities or the microaggressions we get from people who don't understand race, or for people who don't stand up for us when people are being racist or being prejudiced against us. So all of these things encompass into yes, exactly. All those things be encompassed into us seeing what has happened to George Floyd has been the breaking point.
Yeah.
Because we're thinking about what we're going through every day at work, every day in our communities, just so that we can be accepted. Plus, we're dealing with the death of our brothers and sisters by someone who's supposed to protect us, right? And we're remembering what our ancestors had to go through and how we have not come that far since segregation. It's a lot.
It is a lot. And for those who have had, just to add to your list that you went over, for those who have already had encounters and experiences already with law enforcement, it only reawakens and reactivates that experience, right? So then we start seeing flashbacks, nightmares, right? Avoidance, all of that starts to come up.
Or you might be just so tired or so fed up that now you're just about to act out.
Sure.
Because nobody's hearing you, right? And then that's not good either. But you have no other way.
Yeah. And not recognizing that also this anger could also indicate depression.
Oh, that's good.
You follow? So in communities of color and Black folks, depression can look like anger and irritability.
That's good.
Right? Because you're constantly inundated with these experiences day to day, like you were saying, microaggression. And so it comes across as anger, or the result is anger. But we recognize anger is a secondary emotion. So there's deeper things within.
That's good.
Right?
What is causing? Right.
Yes. One of the things I tell my students is that you have to move it from looking at the behavior you're seeing right now and say, I wonder what happened along the way that this is the behavior I see today.
Right.
What's been going on?
And what am I feeling that is causing this anger? Because anger is not what I'm feeling first. Am I not being heard? Am I being misunderstood? Am I being disrespected?
Yes.
All of those things that I just listed could be the reason why you're angry. But again, we're unheard. We're not visible and nobody wants to hear it because Black people can deal with it. We're strong enough, right? We even see this in our medical field. We go into the doctor. We tell them we don't feel well. We wait 10 hours and then somebody's dead. Yeah. Because they think that we can deal with this sense of pain, and it's an idea that so many people have, and we're treated unfairly for it. Have you ever understood that or seen that? Like even in the medical field, we're not even given the same respect because we have this, for some reason, ability to deal with pain.
Yeah, there's a lot of literature and narratives out there regarding that, and also seeing the treatment of Black women who are pregnant and the type of treatment that they get based on stereotypes, implicit bias, etc. Right?
Yes.
What types of support, resources, treatment, bedside manners, lack thereof, etc. that our Black women get.
Right. And how they are more at risk for complications during birth than any other race in America, and how there's more deaths related to Black women pregnancies and the deliveries of their babies. So we are going into things that we didn't even think we would tonight. And those are also pains that trump our minds every single day.
For sure. And that's the grief again.
Yeah.
That's the grief again and the stress. Yeah, for sure.
And so in all of your emerging themes from both of these pieces, and you guys, he has so many more articles, journal articles that are published, so check them out. But in these two pieces and the themes that were that were presented, I have a question for you. And I heard you
Yeah.
say that it's really for us to unpack because we don't have a safe space. How can people on this live find a way to create a safe space for people that they know so that they can start to unpack how they truly feel? And how can those on this live who are not Indigenous or people of color, Black, Indigenous, or people of color, how can they listen actively so that people of color can feel safe?
Okay. So one, I strongly believe that Black folk in the Black community need to take back their own healing. Folks need to create their own communities of support, just like we're doing right now on live, right? I mean, we're seeing one of the things that COVID is teaching us is how to come together virtually. We may not all be able to be in physical space together and community and fellowship together, but virtually we can be in spaces together. And so I think that's one thing that can happen. The other thing is we need to have conversations and continue to have conversations. And there needs to be separate spaces around what we're experiencing and grieving, right? So there definitely needs to be Black folks coming together, grieving and processing. And then there needs to be allies, white accountability groups coming together, seeing and talking about how they need to show up and get other folks that they know who are not Black recognizing what's happening and the impact and where this is coming from, regarding how do we promote healing. The other pieces regarding that is acknowledging the pain. We got to start there. You know, we started this live going over the names and, you know, becoming emotional with it. We need to be able to acknowledge that this hurts. We need to acknowledge that it's painful. And begin to start to look at ways in which we can move and heal simultaneously while things are being done on a larger macro, structural, systemic level too, because we need everything. This is not one thing over the other, right? Emotional, psychological justice is social justice, but it does not substitute what's happening and what needs to happen all over.
Right. I agree with you 100%. And so for those who are recognizing that they're hypervigilant and angry and sad and scared and just so tired, I've seen maybe 100 times somebody say, I am tired.
Yes.
If you have said, I am tired this week or last week, drop a purple and orange heart, please. Because I have seen it a million times. I'm tired. We're tired. We're tired. If these people if they're not sleeping at night, like you mentioned earlier, it's harder for them to sleep. What are some coping skills to help them regulate their central nervous system?
I think one of the things is, and I know it's cliche, but it's really centering yourself with your breathing. It's really, And with that, acknowledging and being aware, and this is, you know, part of mindfulness practice, is being aware of the body is feeling and where the tenseness and tightness is at.
That's
right?
Good.
And beginning with each breath, right, to release that tension, right? And recognize that. I think that becomes important to bring it down. And that may mean turning off the television, getting off social media, because that's not going to help regulate you physiologically speaking and emotionally speaking.
That's
if you continue to be inundated with it. So I think that's one of the immediate things. The other thing is you get to feel.
I have to tell you something. Someone just typed breathing ironic.
Yes, that part.
Wow.
Right? We get shot and stuff and choked just for breathing. The privilege of being able to breathe is important to note with that.
Wow.
Accepting all the emotions. You know, I think that's one thing we try to deny ourselves because, you know, it's not visible. Nobody's acknowledging and affirming and validating the different feelings and emotions that we feel. So accepting that. Grief is accepting all feelings that come with a loss or change. And then the other piece is talking. Don't suffer in silence. Get that community, get that support to talk to. We need that. We need that to heal. We need that to process so that we are not going, you know, insane in our own minds, feeling like we are trapped. And this is only my experience, psychological experience speaking.
Right. Would you mind I lead a breathing exercise for everyone?
Sure.
Now, okay, so this is just so simple, and it's something I even have my kids do sometimes to help regulate or to help them co-regulate. But it's literally just breathing in, and the inhale is 7 seconds all the way up, and then breathing out for 7 seconds. And we're going to do that 3 times. So we're going to start now. And remember, the 7 seconds is the entire inhale, and the 7 seconds is the entire exhale. So
Nice.
going now. And starting again, but this time you can close your eyes. This time you can feel your shoulders just kind of relax, unclench your jaws, take the tension out of your shoulders. Allow your body to just fall and melt like an ice cube. And we're going to go up in 7 seconds now. And melt on your exhale. And one more time. And that's how you can start to regulate your central nervous system, telling it that you're ready to relax and create a space for yourself so that you can feel, like you just said, and accept all of your emotions and start talking about what you're feeling with someone that makes you feel safe, and turning off the television and turning off social media. And when you speak to these people, feeling affirmed and validated by what you are saying, I would suggest or even encourage that if you are not a person of color, that when people are telling you something, you will allow them to say whatever it is, no matter how you feel. If you feel like they are exaggerating, oh well, keep it to yourself and be there for them. If you feel like they're sending you way too much, take whatever they're sending you on social media and respond. You don't have to say, oh, I already know, or yeah, that sucks, or whatever, but just be there and sit in those spaces with them and in those moments with them and validate them and affirm them for how they're truly feeling. If you tell them, if you speak, against, how they're feeling, then you're only going to encourage them to keep things inside. So let's affirm them. Let's validate their feelings. Let's create safe spaces for people. We have some questions.
While you're reading the question, while you're getting the questions together, can I just speak to the allies for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
When you are being an ally, you need to be consistent in how you show up in front of Black folks and when Black folks are not even in the space with you. The other piece is not to hijack the space.
Yeah.
Allow for their truth to exist without your needing to justify your interpretation, psychoeducate. Also, do not rescue. You don't need to rescue us. Don't rescue.
Uh-oh. I hope that Dr. Lipscomb's phone didn't get too hot again. Here. Okay. So, are you guys there? I think his phone must have frozen or overheated again. But We'll see if he can come back. I'm not sure. We only have 10 minutes left. If you guys have any questions for me, this specific question was for him, so I'll wait. But if you do, you can send them in the comments or send them in the question category until he comes back. Let's see. Okay, so there was a question that was asked, but he did answer it, and it was, what is rapid research? And I encourage you guys to just hang on. I imagine his phone being in a freezer somewhere in California right now. He's probably like, no, 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 no. Oh, there he is. Hopefully it works for him. Dr. Lisco, do you got an iPhone 6?
Thank God for an ice pack. I got an 8. Thank God for an ice pack. All right.
It seems like this happens a lot. You got an ice pack?
I got an ice pack. I'm new to this. My daughter was like, now you see, I wasn't lying when I told you my phone be getting hot. I'm like, girl, that's because you own it too much.
Listen, wait.
I heard a question. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
You guys, buy Dr. Lipscomb's book so he can get an iPhone 11, okay? Buy his book. It's on Amazon. We need to get this brother a new phone. He deserves a new phone. But okay, let's go.
I think somebody was asking about Black Action Research, which I didn't directly speak to, but I'll speak to that, and then you can also read up on it in my article. So Black Action Research is research that strives to honor Black folks, right? Their living and lived experience. It seeks to celebrate and highlight unapologetically the uniqueness that is Black people and Black community and culture, while also taking action towards promoting healing and resiliency.
Right. And you were also speaking to allies. They were like loving everything you had to say. So maybe you could.
Yeah. So don't hijack, don't rescue. Do not treat Black folks as if they are developmentally younger or intellectually inapt and not able to understand, regardless of how they present, regardless of the language that they're using. Don't police language.
That's good.
Right? Let them vent, because this is grief, right? This is their experience. And so really allow for the space and honor the space and hold the space, and be consistent in how you show up as an ally.
That's really good. Those are great tips. I'm so glad that our listeners are able to hear those. We have a question, and it's going to cut off soon.
Okay.
But was there any conclusions found that were not expected?
I think I wasn't expecting how many overarching related themes that folks shared. I also didn't expect, and that's where I got the title of Black Male Hunting, is from one of the participants talking about, I feel like we are being hunted as Black men. And so that really resonated and spoke to me. And that's why I had that be the title, to honor that narrative and that quote that was taken right out of the data. And I would say the pain, the grief, it's real. It is real. Even though folks are not talking about it right now, we're seeing it and we're hearing it. But this grief and this pain has been around for years. Long time.
Since we've been here in America.
Yeah, and then there's epigenetics. So, it's been passed down from generation to generation through the DNA, the stress, right? Somebody was talking about ACEs earlier in the chat, right? And so one of the things I like to talk about is racing ACEs, because they throw in historical trauma, institutional racism, oppression, etc.
That's so
we
good.
have to look at that as well.
I think that all service providers should start implementing the racist ACEs alongside of the regular ACE score questionnaire, because how could you call yourself culturally competent and not even bring those historically traumas into effect before you start your treatment, before you start the development of your treatment plan, and not knowing that these people have been dealing with systemic racism or been affected by it in some way, and how that plays into the part of their personality and their development. And for you guys who don't know what ACEs stands for, is Adverse Childhood Experiences. And so it looks at things that have happened to you before the age of 18. And basically science says the more ACE scores that you have, the higher probability of health issues and, you know, problems with the law or problems
early
with
death,
teenage pregnancy,
disease, all of that.
All those risky behaviors come into play the higher your ACE score. But I am here to tell you, as somebody with an ACE score of 10, you can be an outlier. You can be someone who, you can be anybody you want to be, as long as they let you heal, as long as they allow you space to unpack, and as long as they allow you the ability to live.
Yes.
And
I see folks are going, giving us much props and wanting to do a part 2.
I saw that too,
etc. Yes, don't worry.
You,
we
Dr.
will definitely
Lipscomb.
be coming back. We will be coming back, doing something for sure soon. Hopefully this was, hopefully this spoke to you in a way that felt right, authentic, and true. Hopefully you were able to glean some information and really think about some stuff in a different way and process. I encourage you, if you want to read more about it, please go ahead and just Google, you have the right to exclaim your pain. Google black male hunting. Google black male grief through the lens of racialization and oppression. That's another article I have. Sexual healing, how black men utilize sex to cope, right?
That one's good. Say that one again. Say that one again.
A sexual healing, how racialized black men use sex to cope.
We got to come back on that one. I loved reading that. I was like,
that's real grown and sexy. That's real grown and sexy. So we might got to do that.
We got to do a whole live on that one.
Yeah.
But I want to end with this. Are you done? I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off.
I'm good. And you can get my book on Amazon. Yes, go ahead.
Yes. You guys were talking about, you know, supporting Black people and amplifying their voices and buying their books and learning from them. This is somebody you want to learn from. It's on Amazon. If you need a link, DM me. If you need a link, DM him. I've seen many people on this live already say they have bought it since being on this live. It will bless you. It will bless other people. And I will leave with this because it's going to cut off. It is something that you put inside of your article that was just published. And it's the very last thing it says. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced.
Boom.
Sorry. Boom.
You just dropped the mic. You just dropped it. That was perfect. That was perfect, Amber. I appreciate you, respect you. Thank you so much for reaching out for me. Thank you for doing the work that you're doing. All the best, much success to you and going into your PhD program. We will definitely do a part 2. I appreciate my IG fam, C-Sun fam, personal fam.
Yes.
Everyone, friends, ally, thank you so much for showing up today. Appreciate you.
Yes. I don't want to shout out my boss. What's up, boss?
Shout out that boss. You want that check to keep coming.
Dr. B from FIU. He's the reason why I'll be starting my PhD. This is my first time announcing it. I will be starting it this August. So let's go.
Let's do this.
Drop some purple and orange hearts. Be well.
Be safe, be well, be healthy, stay vigilant, stay ready.
Yes.
Let's bring about some changes, everyone. Take care. SC fam, yes, fight on.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.